Thank you all for joining us. I am pleased to welcome you to our very first webinar in the Accelerating Grid Modernization series. I'm Stacey McBride, and I'll be your host for today's call. In this first webinar, we're covering laying the foundation for modern network management. And we're really excited to talk to you about this with our friends at PG&E who have joined us on the call today and some of our experts here at Schneider Electric. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items, and then I'm going to chat about some industry challenges we have going on. We'll then go into our approach to combat those challenges, support those challenges, and then we'll hear from Josh about what PG&E has done, who's really paving the way for this industry. We'll then turn things over to Neil and Lynette, and they'll each share our network management capabilities, both in demo form and from a product and data modeling perspective. So please note, all of the phones have been placed on mute to reduce background noise. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen in a little ribbon. We will address all the questions at the end. If we don't have time to get to your question today, we will address them one-on-one with you after the event. So we are fortunate to have three experts with us today, and I get to introduce them. First, we're going to hear from, well, not first, actually, I don't have this in order, but we'll hear today from Lynette Ludan. She is our Senior Product Manager for ARC-FM. She has extensive experience in data modeling and migrations and how to really derive the most value from GIS software through proper data configuration. We'll also hear from Neil Batchelor, our Sales Engineering Bachelor. Or Sales Engineering Manager, not Sales Engineering Bachelor. Sorry, Neil. With over decades of experience in Schneider Electric, Neil is truly an expert on all things ARC-FM, as well as other solutions we provide. He can show us any product in the digital grid, including ADMS. And today, he's going to demonstrate exactly how many products he knows by showing you how we integrate all these systems together. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to hear from Josh Hammond from PG&E. Josh is the ADMS Network Model Manager, and he comes to us with a lot of experience in building and maintaining PG&E's electric distribution network model, which includes feeders and substations and SCADA. He has really spearheaded an amazing program at PG&E, and we're really excited to hear from him today. So let's take a look at our industry. We have a lot going on in the world these days, specifically in the utility landscape. There are a ton of industry challenges. To cover just a few of these things, we're seeing distributed energy resources becoming more and more prevalent. They're growing to over 20% of all electricity across the United States. And it's more important than ever that we can manage distributed energy resources and integrate them into the grid. There's an aging workforce at place and aging assets. Over 70% of the dams in the United States are more than 50 years old. 70% of power transformers are 25 years plus old. 60% of circuit breakers are 30 years old. You can see the trend here. We have a lot of aging infrastructure that needs to be taken into account when we're thinking about how we modernize the grid. Now, of course, there's also climate impacts. You hear this in every organization in every energy discussion. Climate impacts were responsible for up to $40 billion in damage last year. That's just from extreme weather events. It's a pretty scary statistic. But we at the grid need to really be ready to be prepared for unprecedented weather. And we're going to talk a little bit about how what we're doing today really gives you that foundation to prepare. And then, of course, cybersecurity is an important priority for all of us. Here at Schneider Electric, it's one of our core tenets. It's really something that we take very seriously, and we want to ensure that our clients feel that their data is safe. And in our hybrid cloud environment, you have complete confidence in the security that we provide. Now, all of these challenges are significant, but they're not insurmountable. So we're going to talk about our approach today to be able to help you manage these challenges in this difficult climate. Before I get into that, I forgot the most important one here on the screen. Our data democratization is a big thing for those of us who work in the GIS world. We're seeing 84% of data is poor or unreliable, 64% is so complex due to the data management tools. This manifests in problems in product integrations, in data accuracy problems. Maybe you have all the information at your fingertips, but if it's not the right information or the integrations aren't set up properly due to the complexity, that's not going to help you make better decisions. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is really going to focus on this bucket here of data democratization and what we're doing to improve that data integration, that data accuracy and reliability, and make sure that you have good information to work with. Throughout the rest of the webinar series, which I'll be talking about at the very end, you'll hear about some of these other topics and how we help address those challenges. So how do we actually do this? At Schneider Electric, we have the digital grid. Everything starts with a focus on helping you manage the life cycle of this grid. Increasingly, systems and data are being shared across your system or across your organization. And while your area of focus and responsibility may be in one department, you likely have responsibility to share information with the entire enterprise. We're going to focus on how to build a modern network management system to support your operations throughout this entire life cycle. We view this green arrow that's behind these critical phases as a representation of the data that's flowing between the organization or the organizational systems. Lynette's going to really talk about that in her section and how ArcFM and the tools at Schneider Electric really support the accuracy and quality of that green arrow or that data. Our solutions include ADMS and ArcFM and many other products across the life cycle, which you'll hear more about in the future series. These are really the cornerstones of managing the grid. And most critically, these systems need to communicate together with accurate real-time data. So in the past, these systems were setting this up was a monumental task. Today, our productized integrations really offer a solution out of the box that simplifies that monumental task of getting these systems to talk to each other and sharing this data. My friend Neil Batchelor, Manager of Sales Engineering, is going to show you a demo that illustrates the power of the productized integrations and how we can seamlessly connect these departments together. So I'm going to turn it over to Neil.
All right, thank you, Stacy. So we're going to start with a video here, and I'm going to highlight the broad reach of Schneider Electric software for multiple utility types and talk about how each application makes an impact on the organization. Now, our software, of course, covers electric, gas, fiber optic utilities, water customers as well, and can provide benefits and value to each of those verticals. So in the next 3 minutes, you're going to see me take a quick overview of all the software that Digital Grid makes. And I'm going to start briefly here with a gas utility. So the impact of our software here means that it's easy to search, validate, and correct your gas network efficiently to ensure that your network data is copacetic for your downstream systems. So when I validate this gas valve inside the reg station, I can not only quickly fix the problem and send it along to the next work stream, I can ensure that my AGMS is getting this same quality data. So now in AGMS, the impact includes this advanced gas management system to keep a close eye on your network. So in this case, at this valve inside a reg station, we're predicting a low pressure event 5 days ahead of time based on the network topology and predicted fluid loads. I can see that trend right there, and I can trace upstream, compare it to other trends in the feed so I can get a better picture. Now let's jump to fiber optics. The impact here includes using ArcFM Mobile to view your fiber utility network data offline in the field, finding the exact splice point you want, and then launching Waypoint right from there, letting you see splicing in the utility network from a tablet. So you see, we're using the powerful integration capabilities of ArcFM Mobile to make sure your organization's work can be done efficiently, and Waypoint's powerful visualization to make sure everyone understands what they're looking at. Now I'm going to jump over to our designer software, and I'm using an electric network here, and I can share out the work going on at a utility just by hitting save. Thanks to Designer's native Esri platform, we can keep an eye on the work being done inside of an Esri dashboard. This dashboard is great for your organization to find, filter, and sort your designs based on status, feeder, or type. If I zoom to feeder 1331, it'll show me the list on the left there, and I can click on that design to see more details. Also in Designer, you can find asset schedule for short-term replacement thanks to the data sharing capabilities of our grid asset performance software that plans your maintenance, proposes budgetary solutions to save you SAFE frequencies, hundreds of thousands of dollars in reliability money, and millions of dollars in reduced risk annually. Now, if I open up grid asset performance directly, I can take a look at a dashboard covering all these aspects around cost, risk, and other important KPIs. And here, if there's an asset nearing the end of expected life or expected end of life, grid asset performance can advise ADMS and allow you to save operations for another day when you're running closed loop Flizzr on your most automated feeders. Running automatic Flizzr keeps the lights on for your customers, lowers your SAIDI, and saves you money. But this requires the highest quality of GIS and other data to allow the software to make the right choices to keep the meters safely spinning. This is a screenshot from my phone. I've got solar panels on my roof, and a nice sunny day, my meter runs backwards. And as more of your customers start doing this, you've got a great opportunity to leverage that new green energy to keep lights on, smooth voltage and frequency issues, and make happier customers. But it also presents challenges. How do we prepare for all my neighbors getting solar panels? Can my feeder support it? What about all the new voltage and frequency issues? Can we do this support without changing wires? Or do we need to plan and then design and upgrade? Well, the EcoStruxure Durham solution can help make all those decisions. So now the Schneider Electric software I've shown you today can help you make an impact on what your company cares about the most. So I've shown you what all the possibilities are. I'm going to hand it over to Josh Hammond from PG&E now to talk about what they're actually doing to make this a reality. Josh?
All right, thanks, Neil. Nice introduction. And Stacy, thanks for the introduction earlier. So my name is Josh Hammond. As you can see, I work for PG&E, and currently I'm the manager for what we call the ADMS network model team. And so in addition to what Stacy said earlier, I mean, my biggest responsibilities right now are executing our feeder maintenance process, and then also ensuring that our substation one-line views are up to date, and we actually manually model those. So for today's discussion, I'm going to focus on our feeder maintenance process. But it's been a pleasure so far with Schneider. It's a great product, and we're making up a lot of ground. So just to give everyone kind of a background on where PG&E is at with this ADMS deployment. So we've structured this in 3 releases, and currently we're in process of completing release 1, and we actually anticipate concluding this by the end of the year. And release 1 includes transitioning from our legacy SCADA system to ADMS. And right now we're doing that divisionally. There's a lot of change management strategy that went into that decision, and it allows us to basically fine tune the product with each division that we cut over. And so we've currently cut over 9 of our 19 divisions, and our next cutover is scheduled for June, our next 2 actually. So for release 2, which is our OMS, and release 3, which is our advanced applications, those releases we anticipate concluding by the end of 2026. And so as you can see, we're in the midst of this ADMS journey. Again, Schneider has been a wonderful partner, and we're getting a lot done in the deployment space. So earlier I talked about our feeder maintenance process. And so let's go to the next slide. And so I want to give everyone an overview of what I mean by that, and from a system architecture perspective. So right now we pull all of our feeder changes from GIS and various catalog sources, and we use an EDGIS product. And we also pull schematic information from our GIS system. And so we use schematics for like a traditional one-line option for our operators. Some use it, most don't, but our biggest schematics user is an operator group focused on our downtown San Francisco mesh networks. And as you can imagine, the traditional geographic view in the ADMS product, when we visually present all of that feeder information. It's really congested and it can be challenging to use. And so those operators prefer that schematic view because it reduces some of that congestion. But as far as our GIS product, that's what we're using. And so what we do at PG&E is we actually don't connect directly to the GIS product to pull that information. We use a lower environment that we call GeoMart, and that's you can see that represented on the screen there. And so GeoMart is a lower environment that receives a snapshot of our electric distribution GIS and schematic data every day, starting at about 12 a.m. And so what happens is there's that replication. Well, let me take a step back. So our mappers typically, and our mappers and our mapping department, they're responsible for posting changes to GIS. And I think the cutoff time for those changes is about 6 p.m. And then at about 12 a.m. is when there's that replication process, a snapshot of all those changes, then filters out to GeoMart. And then that typically concludes at about 0300. And that's when we start our process of extracting that information. Now, in addition to GIS, we also leverage, like I said, some catalog sources, and you can see that represented on here via Powerbase. And we also use Aspen and SIME. Powerbase is our main source for protection settings information, and I'm going to get into kind of some of the specifics on why we use Powerbase. But again, our extractor, our exporter tool, uses that as well. So as you can see, and just running through this diagram here, if we start at the number 1 there, and I'm going to get into the specifics of our exporter, but that tool, and that Schneider helped us develop that, we start that at about 0300 every day, and then we pull all the information you see to the left there. And what I want to look at now is that number 2 point. And so what we had to do is we had to, with Schneider's help, create a solution that would allow us to basically pull that information in one zone and then move it over to our core zone. And we use an in-house solution called our Enterprise Secure File Transfer System, which we host on that corporate zone, our UDN, and we place all of our information into that folder, and we've set that and configured it to automate the movement into the DMZ zone and then ultimately into our core zone. And at that point, we import those changes. So that ESFT process is obviously very important to the whole feeder maintenance process, and it's something that we keep an eye on every day. But as you can see, that's how we get from step 1 to about step 4, and that's how we start the import process. So let's go to slide 10, if you wouldn't mind, Stacy. Yeah, let's see. Okay. That's it. Actually, go back one slide. Yep. Okay, perfect. So our exporter tool, what do I mean by that? So this is a tool that we developed with Schneider, and that allows my team to pull all of the changes from our multiple data inputs. And again, GIS, Powerbase, Aspen, SIME, et cetera. So what we needed to do is we needed to somehow identify, and this is kind of what this diagram shows, but we needed to identify the number of change feeders. And what we've done is we've created a database table that basically contains a list of feeders, and they have an attribute that we look for that we denote as this updated attribute. So that's how we signify whether a feeder has been updated in both GIS and Powerbase. And we use that to pull that feeder and then initially start that process that we were looking at earlier. So let's go back to the previous slide of the whole diagram there. Perfect. So what I want to talk about next is, so I've given everyone kind of just a snapshot of what our daily maintenance process looks like, and you can refer to the diagram for the specifics there. But I want to talk about some of the challenges that we've experienced at PG&E, at least in the space that I work in. So I want to focus on this ESFT process. And so obviously we set forth business requirements with that exporter tool. We worked very closely with Schneider on configuring it in order for us to basically meet the requirements of our users, our system operators, to ensure that we could actually update our feeders every day. And so once we got that figured out, we started executing our feeder maintenance process before we cut over. And what we soon realized is that we needed to be more granular with our data management within that file transfer process. And so, we started out our cutover sequence with about 5 pilot divisions. And what my team is doing is that, we're exporting these feeders every day. And we soon realized that once we started cutting additional divisions over, we observed that by design, all changed feeders across all of our 19 divisions were transferred to ADMS after the export. And so this wasn't really looking at divisions, it was just looking at all changed feeders. And to give everyone an idea, I think we have about 3,200 feeders within our network. So it was a huge amount of data that we were pulling every day. So what this introduced was unwanted system load, and it slowed down our daily model promotions. And that was a big deal for us because we're trying to execute a daily model promotion, and obviously it's increasing that time, and it's also increasing the time it takes for us to prepare for the model promotion. So for those Schneider users, you're probably familiar with the Builder product. That's what my team uses, and we're getting, hundreds of change sets that we need to filter through. So we soon realized that this was going to be a larger issue as we started cutting more divisions over. So we huddled as a team, and we partnered with Schneider, of course, and we also leveraged some consultants, the main one being power engineers, and we developed scripts. So the nice thing about this tool is that we have that granularity to where we can actually leverage like PowerShell scripts. And so we use those to manage this process. And so specifically, the intent of the scripting was to introduce structure to allow us to define which feeders to transfer. So look at that divisional level and say, okay, we've got our cutover divisions and our non-cutover divisions. Let's pull just the cutover divisions daily, and we'll pull over our non-cutover divisions weekly for our bulk update. And so specifically, the logic in the scripts reads the division name from the CIM XML file. And based on that configuration, we'll either keep them in our server or zip them and transfer them to ADMS. It's also responsible for the file maintenance, like the deletion of old files and preventing server memory from getting full. And we ran into that a couple of times where we're executing our daily feeder process, and then we see that we're out of system memory and the whole thing failed. And so furthermore, another issue we experienced was just the actual system capacity. So file cleanup is also configurable, and it depends on which division the feeder belongs to. Another way to think about this is we keep live divisions in the system for troubleshooting needs. So that was a huge challenge for us. And like I said, we overcame that with some scripting that we developed in conjunction with Schneider. So another challenge was our catalog reference during the imports. Let's move to slide, I believe it's going to be 10. So let's go to the next one. I think it's the one right after this one. Yep, I'm sorry, you had the right one. So not this one. Perfect. Okay, yep. So during design sessions, we identified the import of catalogs, and again, that's Powerbase, Aspen, and SIME for us, as a pain point due to the associated increase in import times. So what we realized is that we were looking within these sources for catalog information, and it was, again, increasing import time. And for Schneider users, we know that on the back end, the builder system, I mean, if you're running a robust full Schneider ADMS program, you know that your network modelers, for example, when we start importing or running a model promotion, that may lock the system down for other changes needing to be done within the system, like telemetry changes. And so that was a big issue for us. And so because this was a pain point and it increased the import time, what we wanted to do is really look at that baseline functionality within the Schneider tool, within the catalog creation that was happening during the import. And so what we did is we partnered with Schneider and we developed a threefold solution. And so what we found, and again, is that during the import, data provided with the CIM XML, that was slowing down that import time. So the threefold solution was migrating all SIME and Aspen catalogs into ADMS. We applied a complex set of rules to the source data, and ultimately we transferred them to the defined CSV format used by our ADMS. So in other words, we took that catalog data and we put it into the ADMS system. And so lastly, we worked with Schneider on customizing our exporter to create a catalog reference within that CIM XML file as well. And so basically these catalogs, like I said, are in the system. So the ultimate benefit to this was this allows my team to apply catalog attributes individually without having to re-promote feeders. And as you can imagine, we run into this consistently, and in real-time operations, we need that flexibility to make those decisions like that. And then lastly, it reduced the size of our CIM XML file. So again, that catalog reference, during the import, that was a pain point for us. But again, we partnered with Schneider and we were able to develop that threefold solution that's illustrated with this diagram here. So let's go back to the overall diagram. And then I'll talk about just a couple other items before I hand it off. So the last challenge was our dynamic protective devices. So we partnered with Schneider on accommodating our dynamic protective devices. And what I mean by that are like switches, sectionalizers, reclosers. And these devices can dynamically change their behavior or the device type based off of environmental needs. So we talked about, climate change impacting the grid and how we respond. Here at PG&E, what we've done is we've looked at different ways to configure these devices into the field to react to those environmental conditions. But we can notate that as well within some of these catalogs, as well as GIS, and we use the normal operating mode in GIS to do so. So because we needed to really configure these devices based off of like the time of year or specific environmental needs, on the fly, we needed to leverage those settings in Powerbase and GIS, and then we needed to symbolize those changes in the network model. And so that was something that we partnered with Schneider with, and we were able to create that solution to where when that device type changes on that particular device, it can change the way the symbol, it changes the symbol itself and can change the way the device behaves. And so lastly, we also needed to reference telemetry to understand the current operating condition based off of, the associated signals. And an example of that, I said earlier, like environmental type changes. At PG&E, we've introduced programs that basically create a fast tripping option on some of our devices in the field, and we call that our EPSS program. So those are some of the major challenges that we faced with some of like the back-end data management. So the last piece I want to talk about, and you can keep this one here, Stacy, but the last piece I want to talk about is how did we visually manage our data, and what were some of the solutions that we developed in conjunction with Schneider? Because obviously, all this data has to be represented for a way that our operators can use it. So to visually manage our data, we worked with Schneider and we got with our system operators, and we needed to create, and I guess the goal was to create consumable views of the network model. Some people can use a geographic view, some people can use the schematic view. But some people want, different ways to view that data for their own operating decisions. So one option was like a one-line representation of feeders. And so for us, some of our operators, to really decongest the network, they like to pull out a feeder and look at that feeder, from source to end to make their operating decisions. So an example of this is what we call our auto-generated views, or AGVs. And one of our requirements was the ability, again, to isolate a feeder and, again, create that one-line view for an operator. And after numerous design sessions, we decided on this auto-generated view function within the Schneider product. So initially, we decided to replicate Flizzr diagrams within the AGV function, but we soon extended this requirement by adding additional features. One big feature was appending and removing feeders, depending on the operating condition. And so in order to achieve that overall solution, we had to think of ways of how to take the current data on the back end, and then how could we manipulate it to produce the desired view. And so what we came to is that we decided to use this importance GIS attribute, and that instructs ADMS on which devices to include within those views themselves. So basically, if an operator drills down to a device, they can right click on it in the geo view, for example, and they can open up an auto-generated view, either in an as-built condition or an as-switch condition. And based off of that command, we can use that importance feature to then understand which devices to include into that view. So by design, we included all SCADA devices, all step-down transformers, and all tie switches, and we've marked those important. So furthermore, we partnered with Schneider on implementing a solution to where we can actually manually toggle the importance using the feeder manual change set type. So this allows our operators to instruct my team on which devices they want to see within these views. So an example is going back to our mesh networks in downtown San Francisco. That group there was very, very specific on what they wanted to see within their auto-generated views, and it differed from the overall network. And so they wanted to include network protectors and ground switches. And so again, given that importance attribute, and we have to make some further modifications to ultimately achieve this, but that importance attribute is the tool that we use to include those devices. So lastly, and relating to telemetry displayed within the AGVs, we worked with Schneider on implementing a robust solution that allows us to include and symbolize defined signals per device type. And this is big too, because geographically, our operators are different. Obviously, they have different parts of the network they operate, and there are different conditions that they need, and there's just different preferences. So, when we implemented and symbolized, via these defined signals, again, that just gave us more flexibility. And so, the ultimate takeaway here is that this system gives us that flexibility of really making each view unique to an operator. Sometimes we got to be careful with the road that we go down there. We don't want to make it too configurable because these are global changes, but it gives us an idea of what we can and can't do. And the nice thing is that we're not incurring additional costs, whether it's coding or an enhancement, and it gives us a lot of the control there. So that actually concludes my portion of this. And again, if there are any questions, work with Stacy on getting those to me. I'd love to share, additional information if there are any questions, but I want to hand it off to Lynette, and she's going to continue the discussion on the network model management capabilities.
So thank you very much. Let me get myself situated. Okay. So, yeah, thank you very much. It was really good to see the ADMS side. As Stacy said, I work on the GIS side a lot. So seeing the complexities and the needs for ADMS from your GIS system was really great job. So for my part in this webinar, what I'm going to do is show you how GIS plays an important role in your grid lifecycle by serving as your system of record for integrations like what we just saw with ADMS. So let's see, I'm on the next slide. So in this is a conceptual slide, and what you see outlined here is the vision for grid modernization and the role that GIS has in supporting a flexible grid and distributed energy resources. The focus on modernization allows the needs of customers with the ever-evolving energy landscape, especially as customers increasingly adopt green energy solutions such as solar, battery installations, and electric vehicles. Green energy solutions are reshaping the modern grid, operational requirements, and GIS at the utility enables work, asset, operational, network, and project management solutions. And these are the systems that are used to maintain the life cycle of the grid. Sorry. So at Schneider Electric, grid modernization is more than just a concept. With the Schneider Electric software, you can create, maintain, and share the valuable data throughout the organization. And when you have more accurate and up-to-date data available, things are more dynamic, they are more efficient, and there's better decision-making. It's essential that technology drives value to address utilities goals, and the ARC-FM 11 series serves as a foundational cornerstone for grid modernization, considering the needs of downstream systems from the outset. Having that system of record built on an enterprise GIS is pivotal. The ARC-FM serves as a custodian of the enterprise GIS, targeting the design and build phase of the grid's lifecycle. Beyond data management, ArcFM plays a crucial role in understanding how work flows through interconnected systems such as work management, financial, and asset management. ArcFM efficiently maintains grid assets, enforcing seamless business practices from job initiation through design, construction, and the commissioning process. And then ArcFM ensures the smooth flow of data to downstream systems that needed, like ADMS. Having that system of record is really important. So my next slide. With the energy transition underway, there is a demand for new technology, and that new technology can efficiently manage and be consumed by advanced systems. This new technology also must scale to meet organization requirements. ArcFM participates with a partnership with Esri's ArcGIS and is building the next generation of solutions for your enterprise GIS. ArcGIS provides the platform for location-based data management for location, and ArcFM extends that platform into the utility-specific applications and workflows to help you solve business problems. Okay, and then, sorry, I got too many things open. That's always bad, isn't it? So, oh well, I can't do it. So ArcFM adds value to your organization by saving time. And we save time by lessening your clicks and increasing your productivity. We do this because the solutions are able to focus on not only click counts, but early enforcement of network connectivity rules and quick error resolution all contribute to quicker turnaround times, impacting daily tasks positively. ArcFM also recognize that the GIS does not build a new feeder. People do, emphasizing that the importance of the overall process. The vision to deliver a digital system of design built for hyperefficiency, enhancing processes alongside of technology. This attention to process facilitates seamless flow of information within the organization, reducing errors and creating high-quality data. By providing that modern platform, the focus remains on empowering engineers, field crews, and editors, and giving them the most advanced technology to document that digital twin. The interconnectedness of your modern apps with an ecosystem supports long-term strategic goals and capital projects. Additionally, it offers better deployment options for cloud and mobility while enhancing support cycles. You can begin your grid modernization project and achieve highly integrated systems like PG&E. And you can do that with your existing ArcFM GN. And that's a solid and very smart initial step. If you're considering transitioning to the utility network, the configuration of the utility network should be your focus. Configuration serves as a backbone of the project, driving the success of all your future utility needs. Schneider Electric has developed the ArcFM configuration for the utility network. We call it the ArcFM UN. And what it is it's a white paper and an asset package that tells you how to set up your data in the utility network. It was built jointly by Esri and Schneider Electric. It has an Esri-approved configuration, ensuring compatibility with not only our Schneider Electric products, but also with the Esri solutions and other partner solutions as well. The white paper sets the stage for integrations with advanced systems and aligns with ArcFM product roadmaps, ensuring effective use of the utility network. No longer are ArcFM custom feature class extensions needed, enabling seamless data sharing across systems. However, it can still be daunting to get to the next step and you may have already had some experience with trying to get started. Whether you are on this, wherever you are on this journey, we can't stress enough the importance of doing a readiness review and planning for a successful project. You can choose to do this step with a partner or with Schneider Electric. And what should be in your readiness assessment? First, you need to consider your application's integrations. Do you want or need the customizations you currently have? Converting your data to the utility network and considering software integrations second can add costs. So we're recommending that you look at your integrations before you do your data migration. And we've seen customers really have their costs come back and revisiting data modeling decisions when they go to integrate their data with a system like ADMS because it has complex needs. We want you to do a data modeling workshops with that end in mind. Plan for change management. This is a big deal, and good change management practice can be the key to adoption later. Engage change management early. Do a proof of concept. We've had several projects that have begun this way, and doing a proof of concept before planning your future state is key. And then once you have done these steps, then define your goals for your future state. That's really important. Creating that robust, forward-looking configuration early on can lead to numerous benefits, including increased efficiency, productivity, and safety. Additionally, it can facilitate the transition to a digital environment, reducing paper usage and backlogs while also establishing resilient and flexible workflows. Leveraging productized integrations can further contribute to time and cost savings. Sorry. It's your enterprise data, GIS data is a valuable investment at your utility. Decades have been devoted to building and refining it. It's about ensuring that your data not only meets its current requirements, but also remains, hold on just a second. It's about ensuring that your data only meets the current requirements, but also remains adaptable to future needs, ultimately delivering the expected returns. So let's focus on just one area where the right configuration can make an impact, and that's in productized integrations, particularly with feeder services and its productized integration with ADMS. Productized integrations can significantly lower total cost of ownership and simplify administration and unlock opportunities for streamlining and acceleration. Although we currently target ADMS, sorry, I got somebody at my door. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Neil, and Neil is going to do a thing while I go take care of my door. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I've also closed my door so that my dogs don't jump in right now as well. So go ahead, Stacy. So the architecture that PG&E is using today is perfect for what they want to do with their existing EDGIS ArcFM implementation. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like on the utility network. So this is what it's going to look like for you to use the productized, automated, and integrated approach to moving data from your ArcFM GIS to ADMS and back again. I'm starting by putting in a PME 11. I'm going to use the ArcFM phase assignment tool to make sure that everything has the right phasing and drop it on the map. Now, we all know that operators can be a bit particular about how they look at the network. You saw Joss talk about all the details around the one-line diagrams. So I just rotated that switch cabinet, make it the source side to the south, load side to the north. Next, we're going to cut in the cable and make the map look good by adding in the proper vertices. Now, normally on the cable coming in from the left, we just swing that into the cabinet as well. But in this case, I want to highlight that this integration can handle the more complex network changes. It's not just about new installs, it's about edits, updates, and removes as well. I'll just adjust that last cable, good to go. Next, we're validating this change using the ArcFM Validation Assistant. Makes it easy to ensure your network topology matches your utility network and business rules. In this case, everything is clean. And finally, I'll submit this session off for approval and posting using Geodatabase Manager, or GDBM. So here in GDBM, there's almost no human interaction required. GDBM fully automates your reconcile and post process, allowing you to control what happens at which step and add your own code along the way. The step we're most interested in today is this very last one, specifically those last two processes. Update subnetwork is the final Esri step that ensures the feeder topology is good, clean, and ready for export. Then the feeder services kickoff occurs. This exports the feeder and adds all of the specs from the shared ArcFM ADMS spec catalog. The spec catalog is what underlies all this workflow. This is where the physical and electrical characteristics of an asset type are stored. Here's an example of an LF1 1250 amp rated circuit breaker. These specs tie the GIS feature to the ADMS asset and mean you don't have to maintain a lot of extra attributes in ArcFM, saving you time and decreasing errors by GIS editors. So now here we are in the ADMS change sets window. Feeder Services has finished its process, and this is where Josh, or your model manager, will ensure any new data reaching the ADMS is processed correctly and at the right time. This includes data coming in from GIS, CIS, new SCADA points, RTUs, and any other inputs that would affect the operator. Now, there's also a lot of validation occurring to make sure everything is good. So now on the left, you can see the before network. On the right, you can see the after. Blue is install, green is modify, red square lets us know that we've removed something. So look how easy this was to bring in that new switchgear into ADMS. That's time, money, stress, errors, all gone. Now, the next step is to make this visible for the operators in that QA test mode. This is good for big changes that you want an operator's eye on before it goes live in the network. So in QA mode, I can examine this update and send requests back to ArcFM. In this case, I want to make sure to add the fault indicators on those load side feeder cables. Now, we're going to take a look at this request coming back into ArcFM. So all I need to do here in ArcFM is open up that markups pane, select that request, and then send it off to a session to make those updates. Now, again, this is a pretty big deal, right? Is this easier than what you're doing today? You're able to bring in these big changes to and from ADMS with minimal effort via products, not customizations. Stacy, back to you to close out the webinar.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you also to Lynette and Josh. I'll introduce you all, or ask you all to come. Oh, actually, Lynette is going to come back on. We do have actually a couple more slides that she's going to cover.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy. So now that you've seen how the right configuration enables your productized integration, what Neil just showed you, where else can you expect ArcFM to make an impact? And here are some real-world examples of how ArcFM software makes an impact for utilities that are using these products today. Editor can make our users up to 75% faster in ArcGIS Pro. That means more savings and valuable time for your editors. Editor can enable 99% data accuracy. Using that correct configuration, it can enable and enforce data accuracy that means better downstream data for downstream systems. Geodatabase Manager has saved one utility 1 hour per user per day by the automation of the posting process. This is an incredible time savings when you scale that out over a course of a year. And we have not seen this only at one customer. The message on Geodatabase Manager has been echoed by many customers that we have using this software. Feeder services, as you just saw, can reduce integration time from weeks to minutes. That means less lag time between sharing valuable integration or valuable GIS data with an operational system like ADMS. So I wanted to end my section with a highlight of the ArcFM 11 series products. Our ArcFM portfolio is the most comprehensive utility GIS system on the market today. And from editor to ArcFM Web, we have what you need. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stacy.
This time it is me. I gave Neil the wrong cue earlier. I'm going to go ahead and ask Lynette, Neil, and Josh to come back on camera for our Q&A section. So we have a number of questions that have come in through the chat, and we actually don't have a lot of time to finish them, so we'll get to a few of them. But anything we miss, again, we'll follow up with you later. So just to summarize what we heard today, the energy transition and grid modernization requires new technology. You know this, the industry's been saying it for a long time, and it's no longer the future is coming, the future is now. We're here in it, and it's time to start making these transitions. The network modeling, to Lynette and Josh's points and what they shared on their presentations, is such a critical step in the process, and really something that you need to take the time and energy to model out very, very well to ensure those key integrations work and ensure accuracy. There is a QR code on the right-hand side of the screen here. If you'd like to learn more about the ArcFM utility network that Lynette shared about, please scan it. You'll go directly to our My ArcFM page, and you'll be able to download the white paper as well as asset packages. And then last but not least, if you have any further questions, if we don't get to your questions today in our Q&A session, or if you have anything else you'd like to learn about, we can go deeper on any of these topics, please email me. So our first question, and please excuse me as I look down because I'm pulling these off of the chat on my phone, is for Lynette, I believe. So are the integrations between our products standards-based, or are they completely proprietary to Schneider Electric?
So they are not the integrations that we have. We can do feeder services with other ADMS systems. So we have a customer in production currently using feeder services and using it with another ADMS. So I think that's the answer you're looking for. So hopefully I got that right.
Yeah, I would say so, for sure. They are standards-based, and we've seen that over and over. That I actually got to participate in a customer session just earlier today, and our customers repeatedly said they enjoy that we offer a lot of products and solutions, but because it's standards-based, they can pick and choose the products that are best for them from the industry, and everything works and connects together. So that's great. Neil, I'm going to hand this question to you next. We've heard that there's a small utility package, something for municipalities or for co-ops coming out, EcoStruxure grid operation. Is this productized integration that we saw with ADMS also available for that small utility package?
Absolutely, Stacy. So EGO, EcoStruxure Grid Operator, is a trimmed down, streamlined package of the Schneider Electric ADMS. So you get a lot of the same benefits, and you can grow that implementation into a full-blown ADMS as well as your bandwidth allows you at that utility. Also on the ArcFM side, there's also going to be a small utility package as well. I would encourage you to contact Stacy to find out more about that. Stacey?
Yes, we're really excited to be releasing that later this year. Definitely keep an eye out for that small utility package for ArcFM. The next question, actually, this could go to either Neil or Lynette. As an ArcFM Classic customer, can I set up an integration with ADMS, or do I have to transition to the ArcFM 11 series?
So as you saw with PG&E, they're using the classic ArcFM Classic series, and they are integrating with the Schneider Electric ADMS. I think that story is over and over if you look at the ability. If you're considering both a utility network and an ADMS implementation, really ADMS implementations are great ways to value proposition your migration to the utility network. And we would like to talk to you about what your goals are on that so that we can recommend the best path forward on that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lynette. We are seeing customers be able to wrap that utility network business case right into that ADMS business case and get that whole package justified from a financial and corporate impact perspective. Josh, I have a question for you that came in through the chat. I think it might put you on the spot just a little bit. Is there anything about your network modeling that you would do different next time?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would do different next time is I would have a stronger partnership with some of the other customers involved in our feeder maintenance execution process. So one struggle that we have right now is that there's a separate group that owns that GeoMart system that I talked about. And some of the challenges we face is that we cannot start exporting from GeoMart until the replication process finishes. And what we found is that based off of the number of changes that are transitioning from GIS, or the number of changes that GIS is bringing in every day, that can increase the replication time, which basically moves our timeline further into the day. And when that happens, we have to be careful because there's a lot of morning work in the 0700 to about 10 a.m. period. And so when we start our import process later, it affects that. And then there's just, the whole process is basically moved forward throughout the day. So I would have a stronger partnership with our GIS folks to understand what we can do to maintain that window that we are looking to maintain that export process, or at least when to start.
That's awesome. Yeah, we talk a lot about bringing the two sides of the house together, right? The ADMS team and the GIS team, and how much more powerful we can really be when we all work together. So appreciate that's what you guys are PG&E are doing. I have two roadmap questions, one for us and one for you, Josh. So I'm going to prioritize you first. What's next for PG&E in this project? And if we have time, then I'll ask Lynette to share a little bit about feeder services as well.
Yeah, great question. So immediately for us, we're focused on concluding our release 1 deployment schedule for ADMS. And so again, that is in reference to transitioning our legacy RT SCADA system to ADMS. And so once we stop that focus, we can basically establish all of the associated groups to maintain the SCADA system. I mean, we're there, but we're still implementing the support structure, et cetera. And then the biggest step for us is going to be 2025 and 2026, where we focus on R2 and R3. And that's our OMS, which we're replacing a lot of legacy tools. And in parallel, we're going to be running our R3, which is our advanced applications. And that's new territory for PG&E, at least on the distribution side. And so those are our two biggest hurdles. And that's going to be a huge change in a positive way for PG&E. So R2 and R3 is our big focus.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Lynette, the last question we received was around the roadmap for feeder services. Would you like to give us a brief kind of view at what's to come?
Yeah, we currently have just released the ability to send a integration to your ADMS system earlier in the process. So currently, most people do a circuit-based integration, which allows you to integrate with your ADMS system basically when it goes into default, your production version. Now we have the ability to integrate with ADMS in what's called a patch situation in ADMS, which allows you to send information from the GIS from a version. We're also looking at other integrations who maybe want a moment in time. So you can send an integration based off of a moment in the utility network. And that's kind of where we're heading.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. We are just a minute after, so any questions that we didn't get to today, again, we will follow up with you after the call. I want to do a quick plug for our next webinar in the series, 1 week from today, same time, same place, kind of, slightly different link. You can scan the QR code and sign up for our Advanced Distribution Management webinar. I believe we'll be featuring our customer, Nova Scotia Power. So please sign up for that webinar and the subsequent webinars coming in the future months. A big thank you once again to Josh for participating from PG&E. We're so grateful that you shared your story with our audience. People love to hear from customers and folks who are actually in the weeds, and not just marketing people like me. So it's great to have your actual experience and share that with everyone. Also, thank you, Lynette and Neil. You both did a wonderful job representing Schneider Electric. We thank everyone on the call for your time. We hope you enjoyed and found this series valuable, or the first of this series valuable, we will be sending out the recording after this session. So you'll be able to share it with colleagues, or if you really loved what you heard, you can even watch it again. So thank you again for everyone here, and have a wonderful rest of your day.